Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be doing my first ever book tag here on YouTube, and it is the We Love Books tag, and it is by Ryan Reads Books. I'll put the link to that video down in the description along with my Goodreads account, because if I love Goodreads.com, so if you want to add me as a friend on there or follow me, then that'd be awesome. But here we go, the first question in the We Love Books tag, and this goes, it literally takes the letters out of each word in We Love Books and it makes an acronym for it. So here we go. First question. What one book from your collection would you keep if all the rest had to be thrown out or taken away? Just one book. Well, that's easy for me because it's my favorite book and always will be my favorite book for as long as I live because of the emotional attachment to this book. Because of Winn-Dixie. Back when I was in the 4th grade, my favorite teacher in the world read this book to the entire class and I just loved it. I don't know why. Maybe it was the story, maybe it was because it was just such a great class where literature was actually fun, believe it or not. And me and my best friend, actually, we abbreviated this to BOFWD, and we talked about it so much because that was the most exciting thing at the time that we would refer to it as BOFWD. Now, if you'll look, BOF, we literally didn't abbreviate of for some reason, but this is the 4th grade. WD. BOFWD. We didn't abbreviate of. For some reason we felt the need to spell that out. So, but either way, because of Winn-Dixie. Fantastic piece of literature, doesn't matter how old you are. Okay, second question. Each time you read, do you like to have something to munch on or to drink next to you? No, I do not. I drink a lot of water. Occasionally I'll drink water if I'm reading really long set. Like if I'm reading for an hour and a half, I need something to drink. I'm a person. I'll die of dehydration if I don't have water. But I'm not going to have a lot of food and stuff near my books because I'm the type of person who, if I paid for it, or if anybody gave it to me, if it's mine, if I own it, it's not going to get dirty and it's going to look probably like in the condition you would buy it from a bookstore 10 years from now. I like to take good care of my stuff, and books are no exception. Next question. Now, we've got we done, now we're on to love books. Okay. When did it start? Your love of books is what it's in reference to. And what was one of the first books that you ever read? Easy question because it goes back to this one. It started in the 4th grade because of Winn-Dixie. And I would say it's probably one of the first books that I ever read. Like, sat down myself and read. Of course, we read a lot in school, and it was like children's books, like if you give a mouse a muffin, moose a muffin, stuff like that. But 4th grade, went out on my own, bought the thing because I loved it so much. Okay, one book you would never go back and reread ever. It's also an easy one for me because I read this, Stephen King's The Wind Through the Keyhole. I hated it, I really did, because it was so, it wasn't my type of book. It was a story within a story within a story, and that sort of thing might be cool for somebody who's really, really big Stephen King fan, but I would never go back and reread this. No reason to, because I finished it and was confused to begin with, so why would I go back and read that? Next question. Very romantic or full of action? That's easy. Full of action. I don't like romantic books. In fact, if I see them in a bookstore, I'll avoid that section. And sadly, the young adult and teen fiction is pretty much consumed with it these days. It's like supernatural this, supernatural that. Werewolf loves this, vampire loves this. Lichen creature loves the moon fairy. Like, that's just, come on, people. That's storytelling, but that's just not what I consider literature. Might be fine for some of you, but definitely action for me. And don't get me wrong, I love the fantasy stuff. It's just when you make it all about the romance, it sort of just, the fantasy takes backseat, and that's not for me. End of a book, cliffhanger or no cliffhanger? Well, I don't like cliffhangers, and I don't like having no cliffhanger. But here's the thing, I do like an open-ended book. That wasn't an option, but that's what I'm going to go with here because Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman is sort of open-ended. You get an ending, but it's to where anything could happen after that. You know it doesn't stop there, even though this is just one book, not a series. You know it doesn't stop there. You know it continues. The story's going on somewhere else, and you can pretty much just make it how you want it because it never ends. But I don't like cliffhangers, especially not in these kind of books where it's just one book, because I'm not going to read 350 pages of anybody's book to find out that there is no proper ending and there's not even a hint of an open end. That's just not for me. If you've read Neverwhere, you know what I mean about it being open-ended. I will say no more about that. But, so I'm kind of in between on that. Now we're on to books. Big books or small books? Well, I'm not going to pick big or small because obviously this is not a very big book. It's only like 150 pages, 180 pages, and I'm going to show you the print. It's not very big. Anybody could pick this up and read it. A 4th grader could pick it up and read it. I did. Trust me. It's possible. But then, Neverwhere. If you've got it, and it's a pretty big book. And it's a pretty long read. It's not humongous. And let me just point out back here, Steve Jobs' biography is hanging on my wall. Back there, you can see the big white book. Like 700 pages. Fantastic. So, it just really depends on the story. If you can tell the story, and you don't need a lot of words, and you don't need a lot of pages, by all means do it, because I don't like to read a book that's literally just full of meaningless words just so they can make a certain page count. So it just depends on the story. Only one genre or a mixture? Definitely a mixture. While I do prefer sort of like fantasy stuff, because it's more interesting to me, and I don't get me wrong, memoirs are my second. It's kind of weird because everybody's like, you like fantasy books, but you like memoirs. How do those... I don't know. It's just because I guess it's the fact that there's something completely different from the life you're living, and you can experience that in fantasy books and in memoirs because you're getting to live the experience with someone else in a memoir, basically. But I'm definitely not just closed-minded about genres. I love all genres. There are ones that I prefer over others, though. Olden day books, present day, or future. I like olden day and future books, and basically that's Victorian era and dystopian type future books. Love The Hunger Games, absolutely loved it. The first one. Second one was not as good as the first in my opinion, but it was still good, and the third one, it was disappointing for me. I'm not gonna lie. But I liked the books. Like Stardust is set in, by Neil Gaiman, it's set in like olden English times, which, not Neverwhere, but there's another book that I read recently that was like that. This book here is set back in like the old days, I think. It jumps back and forth, like future, old days. It might be the future. See, that's how confusing this book was. But no, I like Victorian era and future era because I like to get to experience a time period that I never lived in, and I know the author probably never lived in, but they're getting to make up the details, and you sort of get to experience that through what that person thinks it was like. And then future obviously is the same because it's completely made up, and anything can happen in either of them really, because there's no one here to say, hey, that never happened, because maybe it did. And there's no one here to say that's not going to happen, because we all know pretty much anything's possible. So here's the thing. Books that are set in this day and time, I don't like them at all, because I just find them to be... It's not books are an escape, basically, from reality. I think entertainment is that way in general. And if you're not able to use that because you've got everything in this day and time, why would I want to read a book about the time that I'm living in? Unless it's really good. It just depends. But yeah, Victorian and dystopian era. Katniss or Hermione. This one's easy because I'm basing it off of what type of person I would date. No, I'm just kidding. I would never date Katniss because she's a tomboy. And that's just not for me. And I think that intelligent people are way cooler. So Hermione definitely, because I can see myself hanging out with Hermione. She's awesome. She's smart. And while Katniss can shoot stuff with a bow and arrow, I think Hermione is a bit more bright. I love both the characters though, but definitely Hermione. Standalone or series? I like standalone books way better because it's hard for me to keep focus on. I don't like to read one book in a series and come back to it later on, a month later, because I feel like I've forgotten details about the story that might be vital to the entirety of the story. So I prefer to just have one book that I can get through and really just appreciate what's there instead of worrying if what's going to happen in the next book and if the author's just literally doing it because their publisher wants them to make another book and sell more copies. Because I feel like a lot of trilogies, definitely trilogies, could be summed up in one book if the author was not told by their publisher, hey, we need 3 books, we need this to be a trilogy, because you can draw it out, you can add details that don't really need to be there, but that the readers will love. And I hate that, because I hate the fact that readers are taken advantage of a lot of the time like that. So I'm definitely a fan of standalone books. Now, I would love to hear your responses to this, or if you'd like to do the tag and post it as a video response. Either way, you can post it to the main guy who did it. I'll put his link in the description, as well as my Goodreads link. So be sure to comment, rate, and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, enjoy your books.